Yeah, that's right. Because there's no shortage of good ideas necessarily, but there definitely is a shortage of people who have persistence and can have perseverance. So love really doesn't rent any space for fear. Yeah, and the heart is really a bit like a boat, and it's all like a cork, and it's floating. If you could imagine, it's just a cork floating on top of the water and a string underneath with a bit of a weight on it, and it's sort of that cork is floating in the water. This is your heart, and as fear remains outside, it stays buoyant. You see, and so this is eye awareness. But how does someone process death, for instance, and how do we process all the unkindness that happens at Thanksgiving with the animals slaughtered, and even before and after? And how do you process that? And how do you process information that's really to do with volcanoes and tsunami and things? But those who don't really have a fear of life, you can find life, really. But those who really fear death, they find death evermore instead. Isn't that interesting? There's no such thing as negation at the primary level of experience. Yeah. But we could get to the state of our awareness, for instance, like from crop circles, that's put by the hand of the government, and the symbols of this, that how the sun goes through its phase and grows into a red giant, and then eventually to become a white dwarf. And then what's the date stamp that's been put in the crop circle, that's to do with this event itself. You've got lots of information there, haven't you? You've got all sorts of calamitous sort of information being shared and things, and you've got a lot of other sort of stuff fully in there, haven't you, all the time with Tavistock, It's a perpetual sort of false flag sort of stuff, like Norway false flag, and blood trails going from the emergency exit of the Joker past where they found homes, and way past where they found homes, they found another gas mask there dropped off, and then the blood trail stops. It's like as if somebody got into a car. But 58 injured, 12 dead, lots of symbology going on, that sort of Illuminati sort of silliness. Of course, you've got this fellow being a fairly model citizen, apparently, beforehand. But then you've really got the gas mask past the car, and where's all, where it's way past the car where all the other gear's found, and where's the sort of the blood that apparently was all leaked and things, from homes, you see. But anyway, you see, you've got a lot of information going on, haven't you? And how do you process this? How do you remain in your eye awareness? But it is amazing that as you have the ability to be able to sort things within yourself, until such a moment as you have a centre, you can have a centre by sorting it, by considering, well, this makes sense, that doesn't, and wrapping a framework around things to cause things to be able to make sense. Yeah. So, you've got a great confusion of tongues, and you've got forked tongue where two negatives are being used by Tavistock and put over the earth, two negatives to make a positive, which is sort of a counting sort of a phenomenon. Are people not necessarily really considering everything, are they? I mean, who's really knowledgeably talking and being in themselves from congruency and integration and being associated more in life. And who's having language more this way? You've got two negatives to make a positive in counting, and that's sort of a real Babylonian, stuff. And you've got, several hundred billions spent on the military-industrial complex here, and only, maybe 20 bill spent on basic education in the whole of the world. You've got Reuters, and Tavistock owning Reuters, and the big agri farmer, and one soldier, 1.4 mil, up to a year, there to be supported in Afghanistan. And Congress is just spending more than they're collecting, and debt money is just what's being created. And how silly is that, I mean, let's not get to the place, but isn't it that way? I mean, in 1851, we've been talking, you've got Napoleon III's coup d'etat, and you've got Count de Saint Arnaud, and as the mob is approaching the Imperial Guard, he's coughing and he goes, Massacre tous, as he's got his hand over his cough. And he's basically saying in French, my damn cough, and the lieutenant's just standing by there, and he thinks that this Count de Saint Arnaud has said, massacre them all, and then orders that, and it kills thousands of these young boys for the needlessly, you've got people shaking hands beforehand, people shaking hands in between, and people shaking hands at the end, and and everybody's sort of forgiven, right? And then how stupid was that? A lot of people just look back and they think, well, how stupid was that? Really, how stupid was it? God help us, it was so stupid. But it's equivalent to grovelling, And so when you've got organisations, and all that they can do is just sort of have a grovelledness, and there is no eye awareness. What about that? I mean, but most of these people, they're nice, aren't they? And then most people that you meet, they don't know where the DNA is even in the body. They don't even know what live food is, where the blood is formed, and they don't even know where DNA is in the body. So how's that? Whoa. People are talking about going to the moon and all sorts of things, which we didn't do, but, it's a bit silly. But all the money that's spent on dieting, 40 bill in the dieting industry, and you've got people running after saffron, stamen, and all this sort of thing, and you've got 50 million people certainly on a diet at any one period of time in the United States, and research is finding that, the best way really to decrease craving is to become ever more eye aware, and that this is really the more a good form of yoga. And then you've got yoga, of course. You've got health and fitness. You've got 46 bill being spent on health and fitness. And why shouldn't it be? People should really be exercising and recreating. Because as we're in our playful self, this is your original self, all right? But you've got concepts in language, and you've got, for instance, cultures which have certain ways of languaging things. For instance, the Chichewa that are related to the Zulu, they're an unlettered African tribe. And how amazing, honest to God, extreme intelligence. They have words, and sounds, which we don't even really have to, for instance, define a real objective past that's influencing the present. They'll put an S on the end of the word, and then if the mental subject, it's a mental subjective past, which is not really influencing you now. They put an O sound on the end. So S's end a word, and that's a real objective past that influencing the present, and O's on words spoken by the Chichewa, which are related to the Zulu. They're an unlettered African tribe, and how intelligent is this? It's amazing. You've got Ates, which means more, and ito, meaning done, and you've got the temporalness of the Hopi, for instance, in their languaging of things. Their words are much more sort of like moving and not still. So, for instance, if they wouldn't say a wave, they would say waving. And so they're putting ing on the end, sort of thing like what we do in English. We put ing on the end to create a movie, and they're doing things that's similar in their words, though they have very few words more that's about the stillness, but more moving. So you've got the objective past, seen, and you've got the subjective future, unseen. And you have all memory, learning, and behaviour, Lupi, is state-specific. How you had that memory, learning, and behaviour arises as a result of a state specificity. Mm-hmm. And if learning occurred in interest and pleasure, and then memory retrieval becomes state-specific with memory, with pleasure and interest. Whereas if memory retrieval became state-specific with anxiety, because people could have left things to the last moment to do at school, and then they learn things under stress, and then they can have had a state specificity for negativity in their recall strategy. You've got Wilbur Penfield doing electric shocks to the cortex, and things, and you've keeping in mind that Wilbur Penfield, he's sort of a neurologist. He's taken the skull off people, and he's probing around with the brain, and he does a little electric shocks to the cortex and things, and lo and behold, people sort of are manifesting sort of more a multiple personality. And what's going on here is that's equivalent to sort of a person feeling not really connected, and so a lot of things are going on like that, isn't it? But that your response is what we're talking about here, really, not anything else, But are you living in the moment, and are you living complete as it can be? Because why not? I mean, this is what we're talking about, really. You've got phonological ambiguity and multiple meaning. You have to see, to be able to see in your mind's eye, it's possible that you really can feel a light more, in your body. And it's a funny thing, of course, but even people could have names. Like I had a reflexology professor, and he was from Japan, and his name was Fakuda, and then you've got people with names like Ralph Lipschitz, and then he changed that to Ralph Lauren. But you've got sounds, and they mean something in some language, and maybe not mean the same in another. But then we have to adjust things, you see, and there's a lot of adjustment which really is being done, and we need to keep going with that. But if you had a name like Ben Dover and Philip McCravis, people could think that maybe it could be a homosexual name or something. But you've got a homosexual name sort of even for dinosaurs, because you've got the Megazorauses. And then also, too, you have the lesbian dinosaurs, and you've got the Licholodopus sort of thing and that. But you've got things which are happening, that has multiple meaning. And what somebody's conscious of, and what's sort of more below conscious. But as you're relaxed inside more, and you're more in eye awareness, you've got more delta high voltage brainwaves, And this really is you as your mind is more asleep, more during your day, and you've got ever more powerful delta high voltage waves present to you. And the fitness that you have to manage the things, and only if you had a course of energy could you have taken on a course vibration. But only if you had a course of energy could you have taken that on. So what we're talking about is you really having an eye awareness that you could be practicing as an outward live meditation, which we've been talking about. I being 50% of yourself being empty, and M being 50% of yourself caring, and that being your body and the earth and the sun and the planets and everything is all part of you. And waking can have broken the thread of dreaming, and that's why consciousness needs to be able to relinquish its grip, and as the mind more is asleep, you've got a greater, higher voltage, and you've got a synchronization that's happening between the hemispheres, Lukey. Yeah. But you've got a mammalian chemicals that's involved. We've been talking a bit about in memory transfer and all learn new behaviour, and where people can, as children, can have had a bit of fear of the dark, and maybe as an adult now you go back and you could think, was the dark fine for you, or were you a bit afraid of the dark or something? But that's a good question, because memory transfer can have not really been occurring for you, that you had like a condition of scotophobia. But the faintest of recollected sound, Lukey, even just like your recollectedness of any sound, that you have a memory for everything that's passed, like a video, and each of us do. But the faintest recollected sound, like rain on the tin roof, how beautiful. That sound really affects your lymphatics. How nice. Or running water, and how nice that is, which really does assist to help digestion as a sound. But even sounds have a chemical, physiological correlate in consciousness and physiology. And what you have is really fractals in space and consciousness affecting these fractals, which there's lots of evidence of how consciousness can charge water and this sort of thing. You've got birds, octopus, fish, monkeys, all using tools, and you've even got protozoa are learning to respond, to its environment and that sort of thing. And you've got the tail end of a worm, that could have been severed because of cloudness, because people are vegans, and that just really kills a lot of stuff in the soil when they run the plough through the earth, to eat all that wheat. But tail end of worms are all ploughed up and knocked about, for all that ploughing that the vegans are responsible for. But all that the tail end of worms can have grown a new head and even a heart, and providing the head was close by, the back end that grew the head from the tail, a new head, information was downloaded to the new worm's grown head from the worm's severed head, part of it where it was there, and it transferred all of this to the severed tail. But if they were not so closely together or within a distance apart, the energy field could have not been present enough for that download to occur quite like it should, But it is amazing that planarians that are, a bit of a bright light was shone on the planarian, which is a little organism, and then a little bit of a shock was given to it, and after a short while it just sort of would curl up, just with a bit of light, like Pavlov's dog salivating to the bell. And then when those planarians were fed after having learned that to the other planarians, all you had to do was shine a bright light and bam, a lot of them would all curl up as well. And all they did was actually eat a bit of the information substance. That, isn't that incredible? You've got a red-eyed tree frog, and it lays an egg, its eggs, in little branches, over water, and it can feel when a snake comes up into the tree, and even that's premature, it can birth itself through the egg prematurely into the water, and that it had an intelligence to be able to survive that, even though it even wasn't born. You know what I mean? You've got a transfer of energy going on. You've got a real major transfer of energy going on. So, is stress and terror sort of being consumed, and Thanksgiving? And is that all about not stopping inheriting all the DNA virus and disruption to the E's and an inheritedness of a low vibration? Not to tune into eye awareness, not to need to really kill all of those animals and things, and why not you become more a live foodarian, or even exist as a breatharian, because you can become aware of how important it is the intestinal flora is in your stomach and your garden that you're wrapped around, Yeah. So anyway, these are ideas, because intelligence is the ability to go beyond prefix set patterns of response to be able to survive. And you've got the mammalian chemical sort of that's involved in memory transfer, and as people are able to dream, you've got memory transfer happening. But you've got a state specificity. All memory learning and behaviour is state specific, and that as you're feeling pleasure and interest, you've got more whole brain functioning, and as you would have had averseness there, that only can have been created of limited mind function, you see. So you've got the correlate of any memory, even just like the sound of rain on a tin roof, and that this has a chemical physiological correlate in consciousness and physiology. And we've been talking a little, birds, octopus, fish, monkeys, they all use tools, and even a protozoa learns to respond, to the environment, all right? But how do you process a death, and how do you process when all your possessions and everything could have been taken a bit and all, and even your health and stuff, and your loved ones are taken, is that real? Is the state of death real, or is it not really a state of any rememberedness or recollectedness? What is that? And then how are you coping in your life? But what we're talking about is eye awareness, which I care very much if people could go back through the programs and learn more and stay tuned for our shows that we have coming up. But those who are not fearing life, of course, they really are finding life, and you who could have been fearing death sort of thing and all that sort of stuff, it's just a finding of that instead, all right? Yeah, but stay tuned, because we're going to be talking a bit about how the sun is going to go through a phase as it grows into a red giant, which happens pretty quickly, like over 2.5 months. That's all it takes. And red giant and then collapses into a white dwarf phase, And then according to crop circles and things, that's apparently starting December 23rd, 2012. And then we could talk a little bit about the date stamp that was there in that crop circle and where that is, and that sort of thing. And then the finishing of the expandingness, happens March 28th, 2013. These are eclipse moments for you to be more in your eye awareness, and become a light foodarian now, and reduce the slaughter and injury and damage, Yeah. But anyway, as the sun would expand all the way out, it does finish expanding according to the crop circles, March 28, 2013, but it's expanded all the way out to Mercury and Venus, and as that does, it sort of blows out our atmosphere, and that's sort of something which happens. But that's something which I would really care very much for us to talk a little bit about, But as you've got your delta high voltage, you've really got a synchronization happening of your hemispheres of your brain, and your mind is ever more asleep, and you're dreaming more in a slight dream, a sleep-like state. And you've got a beautiful delta and theta and alpha waves and some beta, and you've got these deep brain waves which are carrying information from the brainstem all the way through to the neocortex. Otherwise, you've got all sorts of shocks going on from news, and people's response could have been shocked more, and that's just the same as an electroanesthesia. You see, electroanesthesia, by the way, that's a safe way for anesthesia, which that should really become what we do more in the future for stuff. But, where we are, it doesn't stop people connecting and talking about what we can do. That enough is present in consciousness to have eye awareness. It's possible for us to have a force just the same as we can, and we can see we have effect on material around us, and that consciousness affects materials around us, that we can have a conscious effect to affect everything. But waking and all news and stuff that causes people to sort of break their trance, they often are breaking the thread of the dream, and Tavistock sort of loves that, because they want to reduce the population, by 95% of all the people that are here, sort of thing. You've got this mammalian chemical, and chemicals that's involved in memory transfer of all learn new information and behaviour, and where that isn't happening, that's called nyctophobia or scotophobia. And scotophobins are a range of neurotransmitters which are all involved in memory transfer. But the faintest of recollected sound, as we're saying, even on a tin roof, has an amazing chemical physiological correlate in consciousness and physiology, Lukey. All right. So you've got wisdom really being applied. When people are using more appropriate words and things. Intelligence is the ability to go beyond prefix set patterns of response to be able to survive. And wisdom is being able to say no to harmful things, and wisdom is using the appropriate words and energy and emotion, and you're using the appropriate emotion. And energy and motion, emotion, is a primitive form of language exchange between ourselves and within our body. And, you've got all of these ethnocentric types of conditions and culture-bound types of, and gender-bound, conditions of precognitive commitments where, like mosquitoes, could have been conditioned, then the glass walls removed, and then they didn't move outside the box except for some brave souls that actually did, think outside the box. They flew outside the box where it was, but then for the rest, they sort of maybe just remained in there, even though the walls and the ceiling and everything, glass walls were gone. But white people can have been taught that negotiation and things like that is sort of weakness, and it's sort of like compromise. And then you don't really have white people sort of negotiating with each other much and that sort of thing, like you do sort of in other cultures, because it's sort of like seen as maybe sort of weakness or something, But we've got a lot of culture-bound stuff going on, and like I think a lot of people have been woofed by white upper-class females, you know, with the social mores and everything, because they're the ones that are really being protected. And if they weren't, then they'd be called, to be singled out, they'd be called white female, not black male, you know. Yeah. So these are the sort of things we need to become a bit more aware of. Of course, God is more dark and dark and black energy and black matter, far more powerfully. This is God certainly than what light is, because you've got a lot more dark in the universe than you've got light, you know. And light only ever comes out of dark. But if white people just going around saying, "Oh, Jesus is white and nice and all and clean," that's really untrue. And then why would you want to say that anyway? It's a bit stupid, you know. You know, that's the sort of stuff that's going on, and there really is ethnocentric sort of conditions imposed, which can affect a person's personal power, because you've got a field of energy which can affect people's personal power a bit, you know, going on, and then things are more subjective, not objective. But you've got a lot of irrational language, serious, and behaviour. Wow. You know, at the UN Assembly. The thing that is just striking, which is not easy for me to get over, but I can, you know, is how funny is it? They never talk about the growth of money, you know, and like when information is just missing. I mean, why is that? When information is missing, isn't something going on there? You know what I mean? A lot of stuff missing, isn't there? Yeah. But young minds, you know, take the shape of language that you're responding to now, you know, and why don't you take charge, you know? Why don't you really begin an eye awareness and practice eye awareness and have some union more on the earth, you know, rather than a ragged, chaotic, just drunk monkey stung by a scorpion, you know, chasing the egg of a barren chicken. You've got young minds shaping everything that's being responded to, and you've got content in whole brain functioning influencing processes, and you've got whole brain functioning processes influencing content, and you've got syntax, where you've got kinesthetic, auditory, visual, you've got body, mind, and spirit, you've got all the complement of your senses, you're relaxed of your shoulders, your eyes are level, your heart is out, in front, you know, you have a nice arch in your back, your shoulders are back, you have a soft, moist eyes, and you're remaining more empty and thinking and chatter, and you're in uptime. And this syntax leads you more into a deep insight that's intelligence and is relativistic. It involves relativistic sort of physiology and psychology, just like body, mind, and spirit in this order, not mind, body, spirit, or spirit, body, mind. It is body, mind, and spirit, kinesthetic, auditory, visual. You have to feel light to see in the mind's eye, and as you go get and have its body, and as you talk, mention, admit, explain its mind, and the spirit is involving enlightenment and involving our ability to be able to see in our mind's eye. But the Hopis are nothing really still exists. Isn't that amazing? And isn't that how true is this? So words are more in their movingness, like a wave is waving. Isn't that amazing? So you've got these precognitive commitments where the world could have been, as senses coming in, being interpreted, and then the way that we coded things could have just sort of been interpreted, and what we're talking about is applying eye awareness, you know. But a paradigm paralysis could have existed, just like the Swiss were unable to see that the digital quartz watch was actually really a watch, and that could keep time accurately 1,000% more than anything else that was created. but it just didn't have any springs and cogs, and they were not able to sort of say that was actually the new generation, Quartz digital watch. And so Seiko of Japan and Texas Instruments just really took off, and the Swiss, which were the number one watchmakers, they sort of just really lost out. But this is an example of a paradigm paralysis, and these sort of a set of rules and things that can be going on can, of course, people to have a bit of a paralysis. And then these shows are all assisting you to look at the content of what you're being fed, and do you really care to be fed food from someone who really is caring about you, or just going to be continuously fed by a hand that just absolutely does not care? You've caught your hair on the Ferris wheel of life, honest to God. You're having caught your hair on the Ferris wheel of life, it does not mean jack nothing. Wow. Well, yeah, just a bit of chattel and, movable property, warehouse receipt. Yeah. And two negatives to make a positive, and rules, paradigms, set of energy going out rather than coming in, and and then two negatives make a positive, and all that sort of stuff, and then all the negatives, negativity and things. It's pretty amazing. But you have to have eye awareness, and eye awareness, you really have a greatness, and you can feel your greatness inside, or otherwise I would have not have been there, and that's inferior. That's just M, and that's what Tavistock sort of wants, and that's the effect of all the Tavistock stuff, actually. But intelligence is the ability to go beyond prefix set patterns of response to survive, Lukey, and we can just go through some of these key points. Number one would be intelligence is being applied or applying a complement of our sensory motor complex. So as you've got body, mind, and spirit, you've got kinesthetic, auditory, visual. But most stuck states, there could have been a sensory system deletion going on in your processing, and the moment you actually see in your mind's eye and you look, you're actually involving your occipital lobes, and then typically perhaps you could exit more from your strategy maybe, But number two, being associated and congruent and integrated and learning about what this is, which we're going to be talking a bit about, but that's equivalent to you being playful. Number three, focus on a cared outcome. Why not have a cared outcome? Why not have a shared outcome? Why not have an outcome that's social, and not what you don't want or what the problem could have been, because that's just totally something else. Are you actually really getting sleep and rest, or have you just had a focus on the problem and sighing, and then what was the voice underneath the sigh when you let your breath out? But are you sleeping and resting, and are you resting yourself through the day, or are you just thinking, and then apparently when you go to sleep, maybe that doesn't or something. But nutrients, sleep and rest, and their proper use is really highly significant for you, more that's having more an evolved mind as I. And an ant, as we've been talking a bit, it only sleeps in short naps, and that sort of thing, and cats do too, and dogs. But dreaming that's not subject to your will, and that your will's had the ability to be able to relinquish its grip on the outside world. Yeah. So there's things somebody can do to just, relax their grip, and then people could lighten up a little more, Yeah. Anyway, that's another thing. But we're talking about eye awareness, and dreaming systematically really kind of interfered with and deteriorated the brain and behaviour, Lukey. And then waking could have broken the thread of dreaming. Yeah. Are you there, Lukey?
I'm here, Doc.
Are you there?
I'm on edge of my... Yep.
Oh, sorry. How much time do we have? A little bit more time?
We got, looks like 3 minutes, 3.5.
Jesus, isn't that amazing? Sounds like only a few minutes to me, but anyway. we've got some amazing material that's coming up. Everyone needs to learn about what integrated behaviour is, and what does it mean to be associated and congruent. And are you in your playful self? Because this is what's original, you know. But prophetic dreaming really does result in a time-forgotten dimension becoming more uncovered for you, you know, and a larger view ever becoming more aware, and that you can gather information and be able to make better decisions. And so that's what this is about. I'm caring so much that eye awareness really can lead you into your whole brain functionness and life with nutrition, and have gender and economic egalitarianism, and you're really doing your 50-50 with your eye awareness, 50% empty and 50% caring, and this is I am. Isn't that amazing? You know, you've got mouthless beakworms growing off algae growing inside, just like what's going on inside a human being too. You've got mindless and dreaming equivalent to peace and whole brain functioning, and you've got let will rest, and you've got intelligence being the ability to go beyond prefix set patterns of response to survive, Lukey. All right? But anyway, the most powerful knot, mate, is tied without a rope. All right? You've got to think and act outside the box, mate. Fear can have had many responses to survive, including amnesia that we've been talking a bit about during this program. We'll continue to a bit. But that amnesia could have caused split and division in consciousness, and even can have been actually being created by shocks to kids and things to reprogram them and stuff by this hand above the government, Tavistock, and these people. But a living being being reborn, not to know or to be able to have to go back to what was, how beautiful would this be, eh? And how amazing would it be to be in a world of eye awareness where connectivity is really creating your whole brain functioning right now, and rather than what could have been going on, which was something other. But pleasure and interest create whole brain functioning, all right?
That part I got.
Yeah. Well, you know, key points. Eye awareness, really, learn what this is. Whole brain functioning patterning is the preferred modes of sorting information that allow you to live more in the whole of yourself. That's what whole brain functioning is. You can have an abode of speech, which really is not in the speaker, which it should be. Your speech should be in the speaker, and you should be listen speaking. But stop chasing carrots and look at that if you are. Stop avoiding sticks, and if you are, look at that. Stop chasing carrots and avoiding sticks. Let's start velcroing the positive, mate. You know what I mean? And Tefloning the negatives. Let's protect this disclosures. Certainly, Bradley Manning's disclosure was given to people that really was caring to bring peace. It was given to people that really was caring to bring peace. It was given to people that really was caring to bring peace. It was given to